Everyone, my name is Kellen Billadu. Today I'll be doing an energy audit on my apartment. Before I begin, I would like to mention that lots of the values in this video were hard to obtain in a reasonable amount of time, so many assumptions were made. Okay, let me do an agenda real quick. I will go over the floor plan with square meterage. Then I will do an energy audit by calculating the energy uses of the windows and doors, the room lighting, the appliances, and the AC system. Then I will take a total of the kilowatt hours usage per week and then find out how much that costs in dollars. Finally, I will make some suggestions for improvement to save energy in the apartment. First, let's survey the floor plan. I didn't have enough time to measure the place, so I just made some guesses. The common room is about 200 to 300 square feet, and each of the 4 rooms is between 100 and 150 square feet. In total, and average, let's call it 750 square feet. Converted to metric, that's about 70 square meters. This will be important when we calculate the AC energy usage. Next, let's get the energy values. First, we are going to look at the windows and doors. In total, there's a hall door, a large window in the common room, 2 bathroom doors, 4 room doors, and 4 room windows. All energy loss units are going to be converted to metric. So, for the heat loss in each window and door, the hall door is always cracked open. Called it about 1.86 square meters. I added a multiplier of 2. I used a U value of 2.09 watts per meter squared Kelvin, and then I set an energy difference of 18 Kelvin. In total, that comes out to 139.95 watts. If we use a similar process for all the other things, applying a 1.1 multiplier on each of the windows for them being fairly leaky, you come out to a total of 1,950.58 watts for this whole system. So then you can multiply that by 24 hours per day and 7 days per week. You get 184.6 kilowatt hours per week. Next, let's do the lighting. There are 6 typical LED light bulbs in the room, and then 7 fluorescent 4-foot light cylinders. Pulled some common values online. Let's say the 6 normal light bulbs times 10 watts times 4 hours per day would give you 240 watts. And then if you use 32 watts times 8 hours a day for the light cylinders, you get 1792 watt hours. So for the energy use, we have the 2032 watt hours per day. You multiply that by 7, you get 14,000 watt hours per week. Now, for appliances, we have a stove, a dishwasher, and a fridge. The stove, I have one roommate that cooks, and he does about 5 meals a week. A typical convection stovetop is 1,500 watts, and each session is about an hour. So you multiply those two numbers, and you get 7,500 watt hours per week. The dishwasher, we never use. We always hand wash things in the sink. The fridge is typically about 400 watt hours per day, and you multiply that by 7, you get 2,800 watt hours per week. For the AC system, I was unable to get access to the system, so I just had to guess at the values. And then based on the values I found online, I didn't actually need to find the SEER rating. A value that I found online said that the average system would use about 0.15 kilowatts per meter squared of the room, right? And based on individual preference, the room only turns on the AC at night. So the duty cycle is about 33%, right? So 8 hours per day. Now, if you do 0.15 kilowatt per meter squared times 70 meters squared, which we calculated earlier, times 8 hours per day, times 7 days per week, you get 588 kilowatt hours per week, by far our biggest number. Now, let's calculate cost. So, if the total usage was 797.1 kilowatt hours per week, which is taken by summing all the values that we found in the previous section, and then the average rate for electricity in Atlanta is 14 cents per kilowatt hour, you do the multiplication, and you get $111.59 per week. That is a pretty crazy amount. So I'd say there's some suggestions that need to be made in order to fix this problem. Now, whether or not the actual dollar number calculated in the previous problem is accurate, I don't know. I'm sure there were some errors that I made given that I couldn't get access to the real values on the systems. But that doesn't mean that I can't fix these problems and eliminate a lot of the energy loss. So, one of the big problems are the doors and windows. I'd say massive improvements can be made by redoing the caulking on the windows and introducing rubber seals to the doors and windows, and then obviously closing the front door, given that we keep it cracked all the time. Whenever I hold my hand in front of the windows, I can always feel a little draft of wind, so I would say it's fairly clear that doing some improvements on those would vastly improve the energy loss in the system. So if you do the math, and this would be by removing the multipliers for like leaking and cracking the door open that I put into the calculation earlier, you'd remove about 20 kilowatt hours from the system, and that's about $2.8 of expense per week, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that much. But what you could do, and for those paying attention during the previous section, you would notice that the temperature difference that I included was pretty massive. It was about 72 degrees Fahrenheit on the inside and 40 degrees Fahrenheit on the outside. That's only really going to happen in the winter in Atlanta. So let's say that we change the difference to the beginning of summer, where it's like 75 outside. You might need to chill the room a little bit, but the difference is barely noticeable. So let's say that we just turn the AC off and that the doors and windows don't really lose or gain any energy because the difference is pretty much zero. So the cost for those systems would be reduced all the way down to zero, and the cost of the system would be reduced all the way down to $3.40 per week. So this brings attention to the fact that really the difference between internal and external temperature is the primary driver of how expensive a system is, or at least for our room, since we don't really use our appliances all that much. In terms of the time of day when things are most expensive is generally during the nighttime, right? It's colder outside, and my friend cooks at night, so the combination of those two would lead to the highest energy usage.